Welcome and thank you for listening to Soul Writer vs. Social Writer, written and narrated by Rubina Gauri Gomes. Please enjoy. Introduction. One of the many questions that haunted me for the first 6 years of my writing journey was, what kind of a writer am I? It took its sweet little time, but eventually I came to the following conclusion. There are two kinds of writers present in the world and in you. One is a soul writer, the second is a social writer. I was going through a creative renaissance in October 2022 when I shared my thoughts through an essay in my online newsletter/publication. It was an essay where I didn't have any outline or a call to action. The usual jazz content creators suggest you put. I just had this ache in my heart and wanted to give words to it. So I typed that essay for as long as my heart wanted to speak and published it without a second thought. I didn't expect anyone to relate to or understand what I was saying in that essay. Writing it was actually my way of understanding who I was as a writer. I was trying to find out why I wasn't feeling fulfilled in the job of my dreams. Not only did I find out where I was going wrong in my writing journey, but I also found others felt the same. With 1.2k views and counting, that essay turned into one of my most engaged essays. This made me realize that I should dive deeper into this topic, for my sake and yours, my writer friends. That led to a series of essays and now to this fully fledged book that you hold in your hands. In this book, you will find the two types of writers in us and why it is important to know where you stand. Who is a soul writer? Why is it important to be a soul writer? How to know, become, and stay a soul writer? Who is a social writer? Why it is important to be a social writer? How to know, become, and stay a social writer? Pros and cons, differences and similarities between the both. Examples of writers pulling this balance off effortlessly and successfully, finding your sweet spot between the two and keeping a balance between them. This is not an advice book or get down to action book for writers. As Austin Kleon says in Steal Like an Artist, all advice is autobiographical. I am sharing the lessons I have learnt that I wished someone had told me when I was younger and new to this writing journey. It would have saved me a lot of trouble. Now, in sharing this book, I am trying to save you some trouble. I just want to acquaint you to a different perspective to your writer self. Understanding my true writer nature and personality, by understanding the soul writer and social writer in me, helped me become friends and colleagues with the writer side of me. The physical proof that we are now enjoying a beautiful partnership is this book. This book would not have been made if I hadn't learnt and accepted who I am as a writer and let nothing else influence it. My hope is that you too become friends with your writer self and together enjoy a satisfying, fulfilling, and fun writing life. Part 1. Which kind of writer are you? A soul writer or a social writer? There are plotters and pantsers, outliners and discovery writers. There are poets, playwrights, screenwriters, novelists, essayists, comic writers, memoirists, teachers, and coaches. Now I would like to introduce you to two other writers, the soul writer and the social writer. While the others are terms for the sea of readers to understand what kind of writer you are, the last two are for you to help you understand which kind of writer you are. I found these two kinds of writers during the 6 years I spent learning and understanding who I am as a writer. I knew for my readers and the world, I wanted to be a crime fiction novelist. But that answer wasn't enough for my writer soul. What kind of a writer was I for myself? This was more of a metaphysical approach to seeing my life as a writer. And I am not surprised it took me 6 years to keep the labels of society aside and figure out for myself who am I. To let yourself tell you who you are rather than accept whatever the outside world tells you is a task that takes time and patience. And thank God I stuck with it long enough to reach my answer. Now that I know which of the two writers I am and to how much degree, I have been smoothly gliding through my writing sessions and enjoying every bit of it. I am also being reciprocated with love and attention from my readers, which gives me proof that what I am doing is working. So, who is a soul writer and who is a social writer? A soul writer is a writer who writes as a calling from their soul. A social writer is a writer who writes in service of others. In the following chapters, I'll explain in detail and depth what each of them mean and help you figure out which one you are. But before we do that, we need to understand why it is important to figure out this aspect of your writer's soul. Why is this important? Imagine a child who loves painting but is forced to play basketball. Imagine a person who is an amazing actor but is stuck behind a laptop 24/7. Imagine a dog who is born to love and cuddle and do zoomies but is caged in a crate all her life. Those are some sad images to imagine, right? Similarly, if you are born with a nature and personality which requires you to be one type but are forced to behave in the opposite manner, you will be sad. You won't be living life, you won't be enjoying it, and you definitely won't be fulfilling your purpose and destiny. Now imagine the child is supported to paint, the person is giving auditions, and the dog is going crazy with zoomies. I can see you imagining and smiling. But how does this apply to soul writer and social writer? Understanding the soul writer and social writer in you will help you understand your writer nature and personality. Once you learn that, you can then shift your life that aligns with it and therefore create an environment within you and outside you that supports you to thrive as a writer. Once you know who you are as a writer, it makes it easier to stick with it and not deviate too far away from it. And once you start living from that space of your true writer nature and personality, you'll start having a satisfying, fulfilling, and fun writing life. Part 2. Soul Writer. Who is a soul writer? Introduction. It was a Sunday afternoon of 25th May 2014. I was in the grips of depression and one of my solace was reading novels. The novel I was reading was Agatha Christie's Curtain. Gripped in the twists and turns of this novel, I kept reading and twisting and turning on my bed. It was around 4 p.m. when I finally finished the book. Lying flat on my back, I was looking at the ceiling fan, but my vision was lost somewhere far beyond. The expression on my face was that what you would call ecstatic. I was crying because the book brought the life of one of my favorite characters to an end. And I was also happy that I got the privilege to live a portion of my life with him. I was also in shock as to how someone could write such an extraordinary story that moved me and made me emote all kinds of emotions one could find in the human feeling dictionary. I kept reliving the book in my mind and another bout of tears and smiles would grace my face. Still riding on the adrenaline of the book, I heard myself speak. It would be so amazing if I could make others feel the way Agatha Christie makes me feel. The voice kept speaking, and what it said next changed the direction of my life. Yes, I will become a writer. If I wasn't already high on the book, I definitely became high on those two statements. Every cell in my body woke up. Bright light was pouring out of my eyes, and fireworks were happening in my brain, and my heart was dancing like a happy puppy. That day, the writer in me was born. Incidents like this are a sure sign of being a soul writer. Who is a soul writer? Characteristics. You know you are a soul writer when the thought of becoming a writer for life drops into your consciousness. It is a call from your soul deep within you. The day you heard this call is a clear milestone in your life. That is, there is a clear distinction between your life before and after this moment. You might also have found this calling early in your life, as a teenager or even before that. You always knew you wanted to become a writer, but maybe were not taken seriously by others or even yourself. Chances are before this moment, you never considered writing as a professional option for you. It's just a hobby others told you, or worse, you told yourself. The world may have made you think that having a safe job, whatever that means in our current times, was best for you, and writing is something you did on the side. You may not know what you want to write at the beginning of your journey, or you may not know how to write what's happening inside your head and heart. But you know one thing for sure. You have this deep desire, this deep craving to give words to your thoughts and feelings. There is something deep inside you that you can't give a name, that wants to come out onto the paper. During the initiation of becoming a soul writer, you want to speak, you want to scream, but you don't know what it is that you want to voice. There will be too many things to discuss. Therefore, you will feel overwhelmed, or you'll feel there is nothing to talk about, aka the dreaded writer's block. The only thing you know for sure is there is something deep and heavy in your chest that wants to unload itself through words. As a soul writer, you want to write just because you want to, be it to entertain, educate, or just share a feeling. You are more concerned about writing than to worry about who you are writing for. The market is not your first concern. It's not that you don't care if the market reads your book. It's just that while writing the book, or essay, poem, novel, or caption, you need to let the words pour out of you. You can't let what others think and want filter what you have to and want to say. You just want to write. This is why, in the beginning, finding your place as a writer, your niche, and your voice is challenging. Therefore, it becomes tricky to find readers. Being an introverted personality can also be a sign of a soul writer. The extrovert personality reacts and takes action at the drop of a hat. But you, my dear introvert, are a great observer. You sit quietly and see the world with your 3 pairs of eyes: human eyes, mind's eyes, and heart's eyes. You don't jump to conclusions. Instead, you consciously and unconsciously gather information and experience. And when you feel ready, and you'll intuitively know when this time comes, you'll take up that pen and write. Side note, if you are an INFJ and want to become a writer, you are definitely a soul writer. Since you are an intuitive and feeling kind of writer, you might feel that you are not good enough. You feel this way because the people around you, the school, the society, social media, news, has conditioned you to believe that if you are not extroverted and networking, productive and hustling and grinding all the time, you are not serious enough about achieving your dreams as a writer. All the advice that's out there which you thought would help you become a better writer instead demotivate you and makes you think that there's something wrong with you, something missing in you. And it makes you think, maybe writing isn't for me, or maybe I am not meant to be a writer. I am a living proof that you are more than enough. More on that in the next chapter, Spiritual Approach. And finally, the voice inside you will never stop reminding you that you are a soul writer, until and unless you give this part of you some space to breathe and speak. It'll keep gnawing you. Who is a soul writer? Spiritual Approach. You will have realized by now that being a soul writer is, not so surprisingly, about your soul. More specifically, your writer's soul. Writing is both an art and science. It is emotional and practical. Usually, we are taught to see and work on the practical side of writing in the hopes of making noticeable progress and quick success. But if your writing lacks emotions, no matter how many tricks you apply to your words to make them go viral, they won't work. That is why no matter which kind of writer you are, soul or social, you need to have a spiritual approach, especially while you are engaged in the process of writing. When I say spiritual root, I mean two things. 1. Trust that you have what it takes to write whatever it is you want to write. Trusting yourself is about believing in your capability. It's about working hard to become skillful. It's about not letting failures or negative comments make you leave this path. It's about knowing that you wouldn't have had this dream if you weren't capable enough of giving it a shot. Only through trusting in yourself and consistently hammering on that keyboard, your words get polished and your voice becomes clearer and louder. 2. Trust that there is an invisible power helping you write it. This second part can be tricky for many. I know this because it was tricky for me as well. Trust that there is an invisible power helping you. This is a statement many will laugh off, not because it is funny, but because they believe it is not true. They believe it is woo-woo. Or an even stronger reason for laughing at this statement is thinking that we humans make or break this world and our lives. Our upbringing has taught us that if we work hard enough, follow the rules, be practical, be productive 24/7, and follow a strict schedule, we can achieve whatever we want. Everything is in our hands, in our control. Well, I am sorry to burst your bubble. Everything is not in your hands. If it were, you would never have a failure or disappointment or heartbreak ever in your life. Whether you accept it or not, there is an invisible power out there working. Now, how to make it work in your favor is in your hands. This invisible power doesn't need to be a god. It can be anything or anyone you have deep respect for. It can be a god or goddess from any religion. It can be the stars and planets. It can be nature. It can be your belief in yourself as a writer. Or, like me, it can be your lost loved ones and someone, dead or alive, whom you admire. In my case, it's my grandfather, my cousin brother, and Agatha Christie. Believing in an invisible power helps ease the tension in your head and in your heart. It helps you trust the process and timing of life. It helps you enjoy the process of writing. It helps you know that a bad day doesn't mean you are a bad writer. It takes off the unnecessary weight of proving yourself. Writing is never about that. It's about exploring and excavating yourself and the world around you. If you don't like these two reasons of writing being a spiritual journey, here's another one. Writing will change you as a human being inside and outside. Any creative endeavor has that power. Writing will change how you behave, not only with others but with yourself as well. It will change your view of the world. It will change your values and beliefs. It will change how you approach life and everything in it. But here's the catch. Writing will change you as a human being, inside and outside, only if you don't let your stubborn human ego come in between. You must have heard of the phrase, "get out of your own way." The above sentence is what that means. As a writer, especially a soul writer, you can't let your human ego come in between you and your creativity. Thinking about how many likes, views, comments your essay will get is letting the ego win. Using clickbait titles and never delivering what you promised is ego at play. Thinking about money first is the ego's desire. Thinking you must take that writing course first is ego scratching your self-worth. Thinking that you need to write the perfect sentence is ego being a perfectionist. Thinking that you can skip on sleep and hustle hard is ego slowly killing you. Thinking you are not good enough is ego killing your soul. Anything that stops you from writing or makes you doubt yourself is your ego at play. And we can't let ego stop us from living our best writing life. The best way to solve any writing issues like writer's block, procrastination, perfectionism, lack of ideas, etc. And the only way to approach such a writing journey is the spiritual approach. That is, trusting that everything is happening for you and will eventually work out in your favor. Who is a soul writer? Examples. To easily understand the concept of soul writer, let's take two real-life examples of such writers. Amor Towles, author of the best-selling literary fiction novels like Rules of Civility, A Gentleman in Moscow, and The Lincoln Highway, Amor Towles is a soul writer. His journey started as early as first grade, where he was enamored by the classics. He read and went deep into them, exploring and experimenting to figure out his own writing. After graduating from Yale College and getting an MA in English from Stanford University, Towles worked as an investment professional for over 20 years. He continued to write on and off for himself during that time, but nothing turned into anything concrete. Eventually, the spark of writing his own novels caught fire. He started off 2006 with the decision to have a finished draft of one of his novel ideas by the end of the year. Then he spent the next 3 years thoroughly revising it. It took some time to shop the book around, and then finally in 2011, Rules of Civility was published. Its success took Amor Towles by surprise, and it helped him make the decision to leave his job in investment and now devote himself full-time to writing. Amor Towles' writing process is simple. He gets an idea, a scene or thought. Then he lets it germinate and grow over time. We are talking years here. He slowly gathers his materials and notes, when eventually a time comes where he makes an outline and character sketches. Then he spends 3 years turning the outline into a novel, and off to the publishers it goes. Even with his novel, A Gentleman in Moscow, he got the idea in 2009, played with it for a few days and got some key events down. He spent the next few years outlining the novel, started writing the novel in 2013 and got it published in 2016. Amor Towles writes what he wants to write, not what's trending in the market, and he lets his characters speak their stories. Like in The Lincoln Highway, the initial plan was to have 2 character points of views. But as he started writing the novel, other characters wanted to voice their narrative and he obliged. He trusted that nudge and followed it. As a reader, you can feel the soul in the works of Amor Towles. I have read A Gentleman in Moscow and The Lincoln Highway, and I can tell you the images and feelings he creates with his words stick with you for years. I just need to remember one scene from the book, and I can clearly see it because I feel I am in it. That's how heart-touching his writing is. Steven Pressfield. Steven Pressfield is the author of many fiction and non-fiction books, one of which is the very famous non-fiction book for creatives called The War of Art. And he too is a soul writer. Before he became a writer, Pressfield worked in the army as an infantryman, then as an advertising copywriter, school teacher, tractor-trailer driver, bartender, oilfield roastabout, attendant in a mental hospital, fruit picker, and screenwriter. There was even a time where he was homeless and lived out of his car. During that time, he never stopped writing, because writing was his calling. He wrote for 27 years before his first novel, The Legend of Badger Vance, got published. And all those years didn't go to waste. Pressfield now shares the lessons and mistakes he has made as a writer, helping others not to fall in the same pit as his. He talks and teaches about the metaphysical aspects of being a writer, how it is not talent but work, especially inner work, that makes us a writer, and how you can shift your mindset in favor of your dream writer life. Pressfield also doesn't follow the trends and tastes of the market. Rather, he shares what he feels the need to share. He doesn't outline and gives complete freedom to his creative self to write freely. He doesn't follow the traditional writing style and format, and he self-publishes his works. Why is it important to be a soul writer? The term soul writer answers that question. You can't be a writer if you and your words don't have a soul. You miss out on having a soul when you don't acknowledge your inner voice. When you let outside circumstances and people influence who or what you should be. You are missing a soul when you don't listen to what your heart wants to say. Your words miss out on having a soul when, influenced by trends, markets, and gurus, you write what you think you should write instead of letting what wants to be written come out of you. When you write generic stuff, when you write what's sellable, when you write to feel and be seen as a person of importance, when you write to diminish others, that's when your words are missing a soul. Your words shouldn't act as empty carbs for the readers to take in and throw out without the words ever impacting them in some way. This doesn't mean that you have to always write philosophically. This means that whatever you write should have some value to you and to others. Your words can teach something, or make your readers wonder, or make them laugh, sometimes even cry. Whatever the impact may be, the readers must feel something through your words. And that only happens when your words have soul. As a soul writer, you are a pen, a medium through which subconscious speaks. Now you can think of your subconscious as downloads from the creative gods or your own knowledge and wisdom gathered over the years. Also, it doesn't matter if you outline every point of your book before you start writing, or you sit down at your desk and let your fingers fly on the keyboard. While you are engaged in the act of writing, you need to let the words flow out without any restrictions and doubts. That is how you let your soul writer create freely. When you let your creativity speak freely, without any fear, limitations, or obligations, it'll speak sentences, phrases, and storylines and create impacts you would have never consciously thought of. And that is where the magic of writing lies. How to know, become, and stay a soul writer. How to know you are a soul writer. If you have the characteristics of a soul writer, that is, the inspiration to become a writer fell on your lap, or you had the dream since childhood, you never considered writing as a professional option for you, have this deep urge to say something but you don't know what or how to say, you want to write for yourself and or give words to your thoughts and feelings first instead of worrying about the market, you would much rather spend your time reading and writing than go outside and socialize, the voice inside you never stops asking you to write until you finally act on it, then you are a soul writer. How to become a soul writer. Becoming a soul writer is not something you can force or dictate. It's called soul writer for a reason. But what you can do instead is create the right fertile environment for it to grow. Read what interests you. Not what Bookstagram or BookTok says you should read, but what makes you curious and interested. Read books you think might tickle your imagination. Every once in a while, read outside your comfort zone. For example, if you are a mystery reader, try reading science fiction. Or if you are a biography reader, try reading novels. This exercise aims to find out what else is out there that everyone is enjoying. You may not like that particular book or genre, but subconsciously you'll pick up the good plot points and or writing style. Explore other interests of yours. We writers are eccentric in nature, and it is an important characteristic for our growth as a creative. Our eccentricity can be found in our varied interests. They don't need to have a logical sense or connection. What is required is that there is something that you are absolutely curious about and love spending time figuring out. Over a long time, the dots will start connecting and give birth to a unique approach for you to write in and live your life by. Fill your inner creative well. We don't create art in thin air. We get inspired by each other. And for that to happen, you need to indulge in the art created by others. Read books, watch movies, Take that painting class. Read a book by a writer who is sharing their writing experience. Watch videos where directors break down a scene from their movies. Spend time with people younger and older than you and listen to what they have to share. Listen to songs and music which touch you somewhere in your heart. That's how you fill your inner creative well. Turn your regular life into your inspiration. It is said that there are stories all around us, and it's up to us to find the one worth indulging in. Become an observer of your own life and of others, and you'll be surprised to find nuggets of inspiration. It could be a line from a song, a subtle expression on your lover's face they thought you didn't see, a thought someone shared which means more than the words spoken, the stray puppy playing with her mother, a strange dream you had last night, a gesture of kindness, a sudden hit of nostalgia. You may not immediately put these nuggets into action, but they'll be stored in your memory and will come back to you when you need them. Or even better, keep a note of them and visit the list regularly. Eventually, you'll spark your imagination. Deep dive into your favorite writers and other creatives. You want to become a writer because there is a book you read and fell so completely in love with that you want to recreate that feeling for yourself. The book's writer is the middleman or middlewoman between you and your creativity. Read their back catalogue and do so with the focus to learn the craft of writing. Your favorite writers and creatives, dead or alive, are your mentors and are the best teachers for you. Have a let's see what happens attitude. Being a soul writer means you are like water. You flow with the flow and see where it takes you. And you do so with the belief and faith that wherever it takes you is totally worth it. Robots in ancient Egypt? Let's see what happens. A 300-year-old vampire who works as a history professor? Let's see what happens. An introverted spirit falling in love with the person who wrote her obituary. Let's see what happens. You may not end up writing the book, but when you give such subtle creative nudges a shot, you will discover how deep your creativity goes. And you never know. In the future, there may be a demand for a science fiction novel with robots in ancient Egypt. And guess who has a 20-page outline about it? You. How to stay a soul writer. Along with the above points, there are 5 more you need to keep in mind to stay a soul writer for life. Don't restrict your creative flow. You are mistaken if you think you can control every aspect of your writing process. You shouldn't even try that. For example, it's good to have an outline to know where you want your novel to go. But while writing the novel, if the plot or characters want to take you in a different direction, don't stop it. Continue exploring and see where it takes you. Again, let's see what happens. One of the wonderful perks of being a writer in the word processor age is you can always go back and delete or add words. So even after exploring, if you don't feel the scene is sitting right, you can always delete it. But when the creative flow wants to check out a different direction than what you had in mind, don't restrict it. Don't let the market dictate what you write. Since you are a writer, you are also a reader. So you know about the various kinds of books that are available for various kinds of readers. And the genre you want to write in, you unconsciously know what makes or breaks it. So when you sit to write your book, don't worry about what the market wants. The market didn't know it needed a Harry Potter, nor did J.K. Rowling research the market to see which book would sell well. She followed her creative nudge to write the story of this wizard boy. When you write your book, forget about the market. Instead, focus on telling the story you want to say. Always keep your inner critic away from your work. The inner critic is rude and loves showing off how knowledgeable it is. It gives off this impression that it knows best how to write a book, but it never has the guts to write one. If you let it have a go at your work, your inner critic will murder your work and your self-worth. What you want instead is an inner mentor. The inner mentor cares about you and respects your hard work. It knows you have room for improvement and will encourage and guide you. The inner mentor will tell you what's best for you and your work, will congratulate you on your victories, and/or will help you figure out why your work didn't hit the mark. Keep your inner editor away from your writing. How would you feel if someone stood by your side and stopped you to correct every sentence you wrote? You'd get irritated. That is how your writer's soul feels when you let the inner editor stand on its head. Writing a book is a different job skill than editing a book. That, by definition, means the two tasks should be tackled at separate times. Most writers fail to do so. Many of us will write a couple of sentences and then go back and edit them until it seems perfect to us. By doing so, you are repeatedly turning the tap of creative flow on and off, trying to catch it and give it shape mid-air. Instead, turn on the tap of the creative flow completely. Let yourself write freely and without judgment and ifs and buts. Once you have written what wanted to come out of you, then and only then does your inner editor gets a chance to work at it. Remove the word hustle from your dictionary. Creativity is play with purpose. That means you need to let it flow with a sense of direction. If you hustle in your creative endeavors, you are pushing it, forcing it, and overworking it. If you are too hard on your creativity to write 2000 words daily, it'll have a mental breakdown and will take months, in some cases years, to come back into the writing mood. Your job as a sole writer is to show up at the keyboard. Then let creativity decide how much and for how long it wants to write. Just because you wrote fewer words than yesterday doesn't mean it was a bad day. Not all days are same, therefore not all results will be the same. Also, please don't force your creativity to come up with ideas quickly and write and publish them as soon as possible to satisfy your ego. Creative ideas and projects need time to mature. Some will take more time than others, but that's exactly what they need. So don't be too strict or too lazy about it. Keep working on your project at a steady, sustainable pace and let the final result show up when it's ready. Part 3. Social Writer. Who is a social writer? Introduction. Writing for myself is crucial. But if I'm hoping for a lifelong writing career, I have to also look at the other side of the coin. That is, writing for others. It took me few years to accept that writing my novels would be of no substantial use if I didn't have an audience to share it with. About 2 to 3 million books are published each year, traditionally and self-published. So I can't just add my books to the pile and hope for the best. I need to give my books the best chance to reach their readers. I knew I had to bite the bullet and start making my presence felt online. It took me another couple of years to find my place in the online market square. I tried teaching, freelancing, editing, proofreading, ghostwriting, blogging. I even started a self-help personal development YouTube channel. All failed. None was sitting well with my writer's soul and the soul writer in me until mid-2021. That is when I realized that the only way I am going to find readers for my work is by writing for them and publishing it in a place where they can find me. And on 1st August 2021, I took the leap and started my Medium and Substack publications. I didn't realize then that by writing for others and publishing my work online, I was tapping into the social writer in me. Who is a social writer? Characteristics. Are you an expert in some field with years of experience, knowledge, and value to share with others? Are you a teacher of some subject looking for a way to help more students? Are you a professional who wants to show others how it is not as complicated as it looks and how it works? Are you a person who has cracked a code or solved a problem in your own life and now want to share your findings with others? Are you passionate about some aspect of human life and can't wait to share it with others? Then you are a social writer. You are a social writer if you want to write for others. You want to share with everyone what you have learned so far. You want to share something of value. The main goal of a social writer is to make an impact. You want to help people see a deeper, different way of living their lives. You have spent considerable time learning some aspect of human life and function and want to impart your knowledge or expertise to others. This is why, for some of us, the thought of becoming a writer comes later in life as a second career. Because you have years of experience and expertise, you can organize and articulate your thoughts comfortably. Unlike sole writer, the thought of writing as a profession grows on you. It may not have been on your to-do list when you first started your personal endeavor or professional career, but you knew writing articles and books were a possibility in the future. Social writers are problem solvers. You may have got an education in a particular line, let's say mathematics. You know the ins and outs of it and are helping others understand the subject. Or you faced a problem in your life, researched the heck out of it, trialed and tested it for yourself, figured out the golden solution for you, and now are sharing it with others. I fall under this category. As a social writer, you keep an eye on the readers and the market. You care, worry, and obsess if your words are making the right noise in the right place. What the readers are resonating with, how they are reacting to your work, where the world is heading when it comes to your particular industry. A social writer keeps a check on these. Your audience and the market are important for your success as a social writer. You need them as much as they need you. There are always problems to solve, and there are many areas of life we need help in. So technically, you are never without an audience. They may rotate with old ones going out and new ones coming in, but you always have someone to help. Since you are a social writer, you are more on the extroverted side of human personality. Having conversations with others comes effortlessly to you. Chances are you are also or can be a speaker, and social media comes in handy in spreading your message. You are great at using social media. You are publishing videos on YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. You are tweeting valuable one-liners all day. You are hosting and giving podcast interviews. You have a team, it could be just one person or many, to help you out with all that. But be careful. With the fickleness of social media, you can go several wrong ways. I surely did and fell flat on my face. More on that in the next chapter, Practical Approach. Who is a social writer? Practical Approach. Being a social writer, not so surprisingly, means you need to be social. You need to be able to talk and write about your work freely, as that will help readers understand you and how you can help them. You can't be shy and reclusive. You can't take the highs and lows of this career emotionally and personally. Remember, writing is both art and science. While as a sole writer, you are an artist, as a social writer, you have to approach writing as a scientist. This is why, no matter which kind of writer you are, sole or social, you need to have a practical approach. As a social writer, your readers are important to you, and the best way these days to stay in touch with them and keep a track of their ever-changing taste seems to be through social media. Social media is a boon and curse for all. While social media can help us connect with the masses, it can also make us shoot ourselves in our foot. Here are some of the ways the latter happens. 1. You overdo it and bombard your audience with your content. I know of one coach who writes a lengthy post on LinkedIn, emails the same to his subscribers, records it word to word and publishes it on YouTube and on their podcast, breaks the written content into tiny quotables and tweets them and turns them in a visual for Instagram Reels. The next step they'll take is obvious. They haven't done it yet, but I'm pretty sure they'll do it. That is, compile the whole thing and publish it as a book. There is nothing wrong in sharing your thoughts with your readers, but bombarding them, especially with the same post on all social media at the same time, is not a good idea. This can lead to information overload for your readers and bore them out. Like I unsubscribed this person from all the platforms I got their content on. Their content is valuable, no denying that, but they didn't consider how the audience uses social media these days. The solution to this issue can be one of the following three. Either spread out your content over time and over different social media platforms, or pick one or two evergreen platforms and one instant platform to share your work, or share different content on different and few platforms. Examples of evergreen platforms are YouTube, Medium, podcast, and emails. Examples of instant platform are Instagram, X or Twitter, TikTok, and Facebook. I have tried as many social media platforms I could, and I boiled it down to Medium and Substack as my evergreen platforms and Instagram as my instant platform. While I share my content on the evergreen platforms, I share behind the scenes on Instagram. So different content on different platforms. I am hoping to start a podcast in the future which will have same topic but different content from the others. Or I could have the similar content as my evergreen platforms but will publish them on separate days throughout the month and year. Is this a lot of work? Yes. But at least I am not bombarding and boring my audience with the same content everywhere. 2. Your ego gets boosted. One of the biggest curses of social media is it makes you think you are an important person more than you actually are. Ego loves social media. One video going viral, one tweet being retweeted 1,000 times, hundreds of comments and thousands of followers. Everyone loves you and love every word you write. These will inevitably make you feel like a celebrity. Once you reach this point, be warned. Your social media downfall is around the corner. Why does this happen? Because your pampered ego will now make you focus more on getting more adoration in the form of likes, comments, follows, DMs, money, instead of your social writer sharing more knowledge and wisdom with your people. Instead of thinking what other help do your readers need in your field of expertise, you'll start thinking how you can grab the attention of more readers, go viral, and make them buy your book, course, membership, or coaching. Once you focus on the latter, your work starts becoming shallow. Over time, people will realize the superficiality of you and your words and will leave you. Then you, instead of realizing your own fault here, will try every trick in the social media book to get more attention, ending up becoming shallower with each passing day. On the outside, you might still have a good number of following to show you are a success. But deep down, you'll start to feel insecure with the negative reactions you receive from the same words your readers loved before. There is only one solution here. Remember that you are one of the million human beings on this earth, and therefore stay humble consciously. You might have more knowledge, experience, or wisdom than others. That doesn't mean you should think that you are above others. On the other hand, since you have more knowledge, experience, or wisdom than others, you shouldn't downplay it in order to be seen as a good person. A humble person is one who knows what they know and have confidence in themselves while also knowing that they can always learn new things from life and others. Obvious non-writer examples are actors Keanu Reeves and Tom Cruise. They know themselves and what they are capable of. They know what the art of movie making requires. They know they can't do it alone and need help of other experts in different movie making fields. They are ready to train and learn whatever is required for the job at hand. And together with these experts, they create breathtaking visual treats for us. Don't let the praises of your readers and audience go so much to your head that it affects your craft. Let your words and your humbleness bring the right readers into your radar. 3. You get so busy keeping up with the algorithm that you forget two things. You are not a machine and need time to create valuable content, and your readers are not machines and need time to digest and use your information. If you are not overusing social media and bombarding your readers, or you are not letting social media give you an ego boost because some people double tapped your content, then the third way social media can make you shoot yourself in your foot is by letting it take over your life. This is where I tripped in using social media. I am still nursing an injured foot. The following are recommendations of the ideal number of times you should post on social media to ensure you get noticed. Facebook, twice a day. X or Twitter, 4 to 5 times a day. LinkedIn, 1 to 5 times a day. Instagram, daily. TikTok, thrice a day. Medium, daily. YouTube, 1 to 2 times per week. As a beginner to using social media for professional reasons, I assumed that I have to stick to this schedule, and I gave it my all, only to not have it work at all. Initially, I thought there was something wrong with me, that I didn't have the talent or capability to pull off social media. Maybe I thought my posts weren't working because they weren't valuable enough for others. This negative self-talk wasn't helping me solve my problem, so I tried to understand what else could have gone wrong. What I realized was I was definitely the culprit here, but not because I don't have talent or capability or my words didn't have value. I was wrong because I didn't try to understand the nature and requirements of each platform and match it to my nature and requirements. After months of trial and error and experimentation, I have boiled down social media use for professional reasons to my Medium and Substack publications. Medium requires daily publishing of articles. I tried that and I dragged my way to burnout. Eventually, I got it down to publishing my essays twice per week. Medium gets its new posts and I get to keep my sanity. As writers, we are creatives, and creativity requires time and space to bloom. You can't force it like our friends with logical desk jobs have to do. So trying to create content to keep the social media algorithms happy is not healthy. You need to find a middle ground that works for both of you and then not fall off it. Now let's talk about your readers. One of the main reasons I have never liked the idea of daily publishing my essays is because I don't like getting a daily notification or email from my favorite writers. Daily posting tends to turn into that annoying good morning and good night messages your overly friendly family member sends you. After a point, you stop reading them and just send a generic emotionless reply. Also, I stay within 800 to 1200 word range for my online essays. I know my readers have other things to do in their day as well, so I want to deliver them a valuable message within 5 minutes. Let's go back to the example of the coach I shared in the first point. This coach's niche is building your business as a solopreneur. I have digested a considerable amount of their content and they have two very big problems. One, I mentioned before, the regurgitating of one content into different platforms, all on the same day. Second, their content is too long. The videos are at least hour long and the emails take 15 to 20 minutes to read. I do consume other lengthy content, but this coach's content is deep, almost metaphysical and somber. The coach gives off the feeling that the whole world's weight is on their shoulder. Watching their video makes me feel I am sitting in a boring lecture, waiting for the bell to ring. There is no doubt their content is immensely valuable, but the way they deliver it makes me just want to go to sleep. We all are busy people and we all have our attention span reduced thanks to the continuous use of social media. So when it comes to writing online content or creating online content supported off of your writing, it's best for us to remember that there are shorter, quick and inspiring and educating and more entertaining content out there for the audience to digest. Make your content too long or too boring and it wouldn't even take them a second to swipe away. 4. Social media consumption is taking over your life. We are no stranger to this problem. It seems to be that we spend majority of our days staring at rectangular boxes emitting light than seeing the real life around us. While some of this training is important and inevitable, spending too much time on social media is something that is avoidable and for our own good. One day out of curiosity, I checked my Instagram and YouTube daily usage average. Turns out, I spent 2 hours on each platform daily. Out of the 4 hours, I know that only an hour was spent in watching genuinely good and/or useful content. But the rest 3 hours, 3 things happened during that time. These 3 things are also how social media was taking over my life. 1. Time wasted. I felt ashamed and shocked to see how much time I was wasting on social media. I could have spent those hours writing, filling my inner creative well, or in writing recovery. We all fall prey to the doom scrolling, and that is where the doom of our writing dreams lie as well. 2. Comparison. As much as we are told to get motivated and inspired by others' success, we are humans and therefore can't help but feel annoyed, jealous, and a little bit disheartened. Seeing others do what you want to do or achieve the goals and success you want to reach over time makes you doubt yourself and your dreams. That might result in you being harsh to yourself or simply giving up. 3. Brain deep fry. I achieved a daily average of 2 hours on Instagram by filling every nook and cranny of my day scrolling. Waiting for my coffee to brew, scrolling. Waiting for the file to load, scrolling. Waiting for the ad to finish and the show to continue, scrolling. Have 5 minutes before sitting down for lunch, scrolling. And then if I found an evening to chill, you know what I'd do? Scroll. What harm would a little scrolling do? I am just taking a break, I would tell myself. Well, it does a lot of harm. What I thought was giving me a break from daily life was actually frying up my brain. My brain was constantly stimulated and I always felt on edge. This also led to my mood being haywire, while physically I was exhausted all the time. Using social media wasn't giving me a break, it was breaking me. Imagine yourself as a drinking glass and social media as dirt. When you are using social media and also getting used by it, you are filling yourself up with dirt. Sure, there might be a couple of precious stones here and there, but the rest is dirt. Now let's say you want to add water, that is your writing life, into this glass. You pour it, but you don't get too far as the water spills over. The dirt has taken so much space that nothing is left for the water, but you desperately want writing to be a part of you. How do you do that? You do that by removing the dirt first. The solution I found for my overconsumption of social media is to create more than and before I consume, and to be mindful of what type of content I am consuming. You and your words are of no use to your readers if you don't write them. Who is a social writer? Examples. To easily understand the concept of social writer, let's take 2 real-life examples of such writers. Joanna Penn. An IT consultant turned thriller author, Joanna Penn is a social writer. Penn published her first book, a non-fiction, in 2008. Its failure to make it in sales led Penn to figure out the business and marketing side of the writing business. She started her website to share her lessons and experiences and, in her own words, hopefully save others the money, time, and heartache I went through. Alongside writing her thriller novels, Penn teaches other aspiring writers how to write, publish, and market their book, and make a living as a writer. Penn shares writing and creative business tips, interviews other writers on writing, publishing, book marketing, and finds and shares latest news and trends in the writing industry. She does this through her non-fiction books and workbooks for writers, courses, YouTube channel, and her podcast. She also uses Instagram to share personal behind-the-scenes into the life as a writer. According to me, Joanna Penn's crowning gem is her non-fiction books for writers. She covers almost every problem a writer could face in their career. The topics range from how to write a novel, how to write a non-fiction book, how to self-publish, how to market, the mindset required to be an author, productivity as a writer, taking care of your health as a writer, audiobook production, public speaking, and more. And since she updates her books with the latest information, you can be sure that you'll be up to date about the industry as well. Dr. Julie Smith. A clinical psychologist turned content creator on mental health, Dr. Julie Smith is a social writer. Dr. Smith, with her private practice, has a decade-long experience of using her knowledge to help her patients make their way through tough times and memories. In her own words, she has had the privilege of working with a diverse group of clients from all walks of life, each at different stages of their personal growth. From school leavers, new parents, students to business leaders, entrepreneurs, military personnel, professional athletes, and celebrities. Therefore, she is seeing different aspects of mental health from different perspectives, hence upgrading her knowledge every day. Dr. Smith uses Instagram and TikTok to help people understand the ins and outs of mental health using simple layman language and examples. Early 2022, Dr. Smith turned into an author by publishing her book, Why Has Nobody Told Me This Before?, sharing skills one needs to handle the ups and downs of life. Why is it important to be a social writer? Simply put, you can't be a writer if you don't have readers. If you're writing for yourself as a hobby, then it's okay to not worry about readers. But if you want writing to be your profession, you need to have an audience, no matter how big or small. As a social writer, you want to share your knowledge with others in the hopes of helping them understand whatever area of life you are talking about quicker than it took you to learn and experience it. As a social writer, you want to cut down the learning curve for your readers and instead give them a jump. Or you want to hold their hand and help them through the way. Either way, you need someone to help or educate. Readers and writers thrive off each other. The writer keeps sharing, the readers keep reading, and then ask for more. So the writers keep writing. We need readers to sustain a lifelong writing career. How to know, become, and stay a social writer. How to know you are a social writer. If you have the characteristics of a social writer, that is, you write for others either to teach, entertain, or simply share your experience. You want to make an impact on your readers. Writing turned out to be a second career for you. You can organize and articulate your thoughts comfortably. You are a problem solver. Your readers and the market are important to you. You are extroverted or can easily mingle with others when needed. You are great at social media. Then you are a social writer. How to become a social writer? Becoming a social writer is a path you can direct, which means you can create a map to follow. There are two places to start with: your interests and your pain. With your interests, you need to dive deep into researching, analyzing, and making notes about the things that excite you. And then you get to share this excitement with others. With your pain, again, you need to dive deep into researching, analyzing, and making notes about what's irritating you and needs solving. Once you find your solution, you can share it with others who can try it. Deep diving into a subject is essential. You need to understand the subject as much as possible before sharing your thoughts with others. You don't want to share half-baked knowledge and be looked at as a fake. This is also the time to put your people skills to use. You can't do the above two steps and hope your findings reach the masses. It would be best if you got to the masses. Find your sweet spot of social interaction, offline and online, and get the word out. How to stay a social writer. Continuing with the above points, there are 5 more things you need to keep in mind to stay a social writer for life. Keep updating your knowledge. Always keep in touch with what's happening in your industry. Read new books, watch new interviews and documentaries, and conduct research wherever required. You don't want to sell outdated and unhelpful information to your readers. Keep an eye on the market. Every day you wake up, the market changes. A new trend will pop up. Further new research will come out. People will change their tastes and/or mode of digesting information. Keep an eye on that. You don't need to jump on every new thing, but know what's happening and choose wisely what fits you. Again, understand your audience and your place in their lives. Don't let social media hijack your life and career. If using social media, know it's more fickle-minded than the market. It keeps changing policies and algorithms at the drop of a hat. Don't let that get to your head, and don't take it personally. Treat it like the robot it is. Again, see what's out there and pick what sits well with you. Stay in touch with your readers. Interact with them, acknowledge them, ask them what more help they need. Celebrate their wins, encourage them to keep going. Let them know that you hear them and see them. Don't take your readers for granted. There are hundreds of other places where they can get the same information or entertainment that they get from you. What will make them stick with you for the long haul is when you create your content keeping their needs in mind and share it in your own unique and fun way. The moment you think of yourself above your readers, they'll drop you hard. Part 4. Balancing between sole writer and social writer. Introduction. So far, we have learnt that there are two types of writers, sole writer and social writer. A sole writer is a writer who writes as a calling from their soul. A social writer is a writer who writes in service of others. We have learnt the ins and outs of both and how they are showing up in the real world. And we know it is important to learn which one you are to understand your true writer nature and personality. Once you know that, it makes it easier for you to stick with it and not deviate too far away from it. But here is the catch. You are both a sole writer and a social writer. We might be sole writers, but we can't write in a vacuum. And we might be social writers, but we can't write words that are empty. Both the soul and social aspect of being a writer needs to be there if we want to live a satisfying, fulfilling, and fun writing life. Nobody is 100% sole writer or 100% social writer. We have the characteristics and personality of both, and we are capable of evolving into either of them and incorporating it with our dominant one. Therefore, it is important to know which of the two you are, to how much degree, and to make sure you maintain that balance. In the following chapters, we will take a bird's eye view of both sole writer and social writer, revisit our example through this balanced lens, and then find our sweet spot between the two. Pros and cons of a sole writer. Pros of a sole writer. 1. Is a soul-driven writer. 2. Is intuitive and spiritual. 3. Is an introvert. 4. Is a soul searcher and healer. 5. Is a listener and advisor. 6. Writes what they feel like saying. 7. Writes for themselves. 8. Writes based on feelings and experience. 9. Touches the reader's hearts. 10. Gives readers hope. Cons of a sole writer. 1. Finds it difficult to find their niche or readers. 2. Can suffer from self-doubt, imposter syndrome, procrastination. 3. Can be a people pleaser. 4. Can become too philosophical. 5. Can embody the starving artist, therefore having troubles earning money. 6. Can fall into the trap of general writing advice that doesn't fit their nature and needs as a writer. 7. Hates marketing. 8. Lets social media sway them, therefore deflating their soul. 9. Can take rejection personally. 10. Lets others influence them because they believe they don't know enough. Pros and cons of a social writer. Pros of a social writer. 1. Is an impact-driven writer. 2. Is logical and practical. 3. Is an extrovert. 4. Is a problem solver. 5. Is a speaker and teacher. 6. Writes what will be of value. 7. Writes for others. 8. Writes based on knowledge. 9. Touches the reader's minds. 10. Shows readers the way. Cons of a social writer. 1. Can lose readers over technical jargon. 2. Can suffer from overconfidence, God complex, overworking. 3. Can be arrogant. 4. Can become too textbooky and statistical. 5. Can become too status and money-minded, therefore greedy for more. 6. Can fall into the trap of stepping into every new trend before checking if it fits with their nature and needs as a writer. 7. Hates not being taken seriously. 8. Lets social media sway them, therefore boosting their ego. 9. Can take rejection as a personal attack. 10. Doesn't learn from others because they think they know everything. Differences. Soul writer is heart, soul, feelings and emotions, slow to bloom, right-brained, spiritual, pantser or discovery writer, artist approach, writes for self first, paves their own path, doesn't care about the market, introvert, lacks confidence, philosopher, prefers genuine and real-time interaction, feminine energy, slow and steady, listener, observer and advisor, treats their work as their baby, takes things personally, prefers to work alone, solopreneur, writing is their main source of income, needs a slow-paced lifestyle to thrive, focuses on process, likes to keep things simple, prefers pen and paper, knows basic tech, prefers quality over quantity. Social writer is head, brain, logic, fast to bloom, left-brained, practical, plotter or outliner, scientist approach, writes for others first, walks on a well-trodden path, cares about the market, extrovert, suffers overconfidence, lecturer, enjoys both online and offline interaction, masculine energy, hustler, speaker and teacher, treats their work as their projects, takes things objectively, prefers to work with a team, entrepreneur, writing is one of the many sources of their income, needs a fast-paced lifestyle to thrive, focuses on results, likes to be productive and optimize as much as they can, prefers desktop and laptop, tech-savvy, prefers quantity over quality. Similarities. Soul writer and social writer in you requires readers, can be writer of both fiction and non-fiction works, entertains and educates, has impact and can change the reader's life, is a perfect mix of feminine and masculine energy, is a perfect combination of introversion and extroversion, brings the right and left brain together, brings the heart and head on the same page, has the right balance of emotions and logic, can go overboard and turn boring, can go underboard and turn generic, complete each other, therefore results in a satisfying writing life. Examples. Let's take all the real-life examples we have seen so far and add 2 more to it to learn how you can balance between soul writer and social writer in you. Amor Tolls. Amor Tolls is a soul writer. He is also a social writer when he uses Instagram and X or Twitter to promote his new book or an adaptation of his book. He also occasionally shares his personal life and behind the scenes of his writer life. Tolls goes on book tours and interviews to talk about his book, and if you tag him in a post, he'll respond usually within 24 hours, acknowledging your existence as a fan of his works. Steven Pressfield. Steven Pressfield is a soul writer. He is also a social writer as he runs a weekly blog to stay in touch with his readers. And when he has a new book published, he gives podcast or video interviews which are packed with valuable wisdom and advice. Joanna Penn. Joanna Penn is a social writer. She is also a soul writer as she has always dreamt of being a writer of her own books and spent many years thinking about it before feeling confident enough to take the leap. She is also a pantser or discovery writer, also an INFJ. When it comes to fiction writing, she writes what she wants to write. And when it comes to non-fiction writing, she wants to be of help to other writers. Dr. Julie Smith. Dr. Julie Smith is a social writer. She is also a soul writer as, in her own words, "It is my mission to help as many people as I can to thrive. I want to make top quality mental health education accessible online. This means that even those who cannot access therapy can get off to the best start in their recovery journey." Rachel Anflett. Rachel Anflett is a crime fiction novelist with 2 running series, Detective K. Hunter novels and Detective Mark Turpin novels, and she is both soul writer and social writer. She is a soul writer as she took her time before finding her place in the world as a writer. She is a pantser or discovery writer, and one of her sources of inspiration for her crime novels is news articles. She has written over 30 novels and short stories featuring spies, detective, vigilantes, and assassins. She is a social writer as she publishes up to 3 novels per year, with a good sprinkling of short stories in between. Her main source of staying connected with her readers is through email, which she sends out once or twice a month. She replies to your emails promptly and is very friendly, helpful, and encouraging. She also uses her Instagram to promote her books and share behind the scenes. Rachel Anflett is always on her toes, experimenting and analyzing when it comes to making sure her readers are having a great time. She offers large prints for readers with eyesight troubles. She shares her books for free through libraries. She even recently launched a podcast for her short stories to keep her readers entertained through a different medium. She has a small team, editor, cover designer, and few other key members helping her produce her books. And she has found her process and pace, which keeps her happy writing and her readers happy reading. Following Rachel Anflett's journey as a writer gives me hope that I too can be a successful full-time writer without selling my soul. My example. The above examples are of writers who have figured themselves out and their process. But what about some of us who have no clue who we are as a writer, what our process is, and where to begin? Let me share with you my story and how I figured out my writer self. As I shared in the introduction to Soul Writer, it was in May 2014 I realized that I wanted to be a writer with the soul purpose of making my readers feel the same way Agatha Christie made me feel. The feeling of love, hope, nurture, adventure, companionship and friendship. The feeling of understanding and being understood. That's what I crave and that's what I want to give others. So I set foot on the path of learning how to write crime fiction novels. On my path of learning about writing, I found hundreds of information in the form of books, articles, videos about how to write a novel, character, scene, plot, etc. I tried using these findings to help me write my novel, but it didn't work out. It took me years to realize that I was looking at the process of learning about writing the wrong way. I didn't need a class about how to write. Instead, I needed help and guidance on how to become a writer. There is a difference between writing your books and being a person who writes for life. And therefore they both require different tools, skills and practice and have a different learning curve. You can't write your books well and full with enthusiasm and love if you don't become a person for whom writing becomes second nature and is as important as breathing. Once you crack the code of who you are as a writer and what your process looks like, then what you should write about and how to write it becomes easy questions to solve. So this time I kept my novels aside and went down the rabbit hole to figure out who I am as a writer. Again, there was reading of books, some almost 100 years old, watching of writer interviews, and doing inner work as a human and as a creative. By this time it was mid-2021, and it was high time I put my learnings into practice and see if they actually work. I launched my online publications on Medium and Substack and started sharing my lessons, mistakes, and experiences as a human and as a writer. Earlier, when I struggled to write my novel without knowing who I am as a writer and what my process looked like, writing was such a pain in my bum. But once I figured myself out as a writer, my writing, novels, short stories and essays started flowing smoothly as a carefree stream down the mountain. This is when the social writer in me was born, but I didn't know it then. It was a year into sharing my writing online when during an introspection session I heard myself say the terms soul writer and social writer. I immediately knew I had to share this with my readers even though I knew people may not get it. Even I didn't know in full what exactly being a soul writer and a social writer was. But I knew there was something of value here. Food for thought, if you will. I didn't think twice about it. wrote my thoughts and published it. And now, another year later, and thanks to the positive feedback from my readers, I am writing and publishing this book. This is one of the many examples of how understanding my writer nature and personality has helped me become the writer of my dreams. I am 80% soul and 20% social writer. I don't write trendy or viral topics. I don't force myself to write something that doesn't sit well with me. I write what I feel called to write and package it in a reader-friendly manner. With my essays on writing, my aim is to help lost, confused, frustrated writers connect with their writer's soul and enjoy every writing session. With my novels and short stories, my aim is to entertain my readers and help them take a break from their daily lives. With my personal essays, my aim is to show how an individual has different sides to them and how it all makes them the person they are. No matter what I am writing, I am first writing it for myself. If what I write doesn't touch me or move me, it won't impact my readers. I am a pantser or discovery writer, but at the same time I keep myself on my toes with a publishing schedule. I am constantly engaging with my readers and figuring out how I can be of more service to them. And at the end of the day, I want my readers to leave feeling a little more inspired, a little more rejuvenated than they were when they started reading my works. That is how I am balancing the soul writer and social writer in me. Finding your sweet spot. What have we learned so far? We have two kinds of writers, soul writer and social writer, and understanding them helps you understand your true writer nature and personality. A soul writer is a writer who is presented with the desire to give voice to the thoughts in them through words. Being a soul writer is important because if we and our words don't have a soul, it would be all for nothing. A writer can become soul writer by creating an inspiring environment around themselves and being open to whatever knowledge and wisdom they receive. Social writer is a writer who takes up the role of a writer to spread their message among the masses. Being a social writer is important because you can't be a writer for the masses if you don't have readers. A writer can become a social writer by delving into their interests and/or solving their pains to gather knowledge that can help them and therefore help others. We have also seen the pros and cons, the differences and the similarities between both, and we have seen real-life examples of writers balancing between the two. Now the question arises, which one are you? Are you a soul writer leading with your heart? Or are you a social writer leading with your head? The answer is you are both. You can choose to be just a soul writer or just a social writer. I have heard of writers who write for themselves and never share it with anyone, and they are happy. I have seen writers who parrot their knowledge and sell it without putting their heart into it, and they are happy. So if you know deep down that you are one and not the other, that's completely fine. But if you want to be a writer for life and make a living as a writer for life, you have to embrace the other kind. Then you'll have a far more enriching writing and writer experience. When I first dreamt of becoming a writer, my dream wasn't just to write. It would be so amazing if I could make others feel the way Agatha Christie makes me feel. The dream is for me as well as others through me. So yes, I could stay a soul writer and write for myself, but that would be just half of the piece. That is what I did from 2016 to 2021, and I knew something was missing. It wasn't until August 2021 when I got in touch with my social side and started sharing my thoughts online that I finally found the other missing piece. Rubina Gauri Gomes, the writer, started to thrive and bloom when she embraced both her soul and her social. The same will happen to the writer in you. You are both soul writer and social writer. One might be dominant, but that doesn't mean the other is not there and can't show up. This is like yin and yang. You have and need both. So if you want to enjoy a satisfying writing life, you have to figure out your sweet spot between soul writer and social writer. You do that by first figuring out who you are. Who are you as a human? What's the Myers-Briggs type, Enneagram type, introvert or extrovert? intuitive or sensory? What's your zodiac sign? What's your gender? The ratio of feminine and masculine energy in you. How was your upbringing? As a child, were you a people pleaser or a rebel? Do you prefer being on stage or in a library? Your likes, your dislikes? What are your favorite memories from childhood? What are your least favorite memories from childhood? What are your beliefs about yourself, about others, about life? Who are your role models? What does your dream life look like? What were your hobbies as a child? What are your hobbies as an adult? What are the things that you cannot stop thinking about? What are the things you want to stop thinking about? If you could go back in time, which time era will you want to go and why? If you could go ahead in time, how does your life look like? Are you living the life you want? If yes, how did you do that? If no, why not? What's your favorite movie? What is the best part of your favorite movie? What about songs? What brings you joy? What brings you trigger? Questions like these and many more help you understand who you are. How we grew up and are living our present life influences how we interpret and interact with the world. It shapes our personality, and it also shapes what kind of writer we might become. Understanding your personality will help you understand the personality of the writer in you because they go hand in hand. Now your personality will be ever evolving, as it should be. This means that your writer nature and personality will be evolving as well. And that's good news. It means you are upgrading, leveling up, living your fuller potential as a human and as a writer. Next, we figure out who you are as a writer. Who are you as a writer? Go back and read the characteristics of both soul writer and social writer. Read the pros and cons, the differences, the similarities, and the real-life examples for both. Where do you think you sit? There is no wrong answer here. You are who you are as a writer, and there is always scope for evolving. But it is important for you to figure out where you sit on the soul writer, social writer scale right now. I am 80% soul, 20% social writer. I write for myself first and then shape it into something others might find helpful. I can't write with an outline. I need to let my fingers fly on the keyboard without any obstruction. Whatever I write, I need it to be my truth. Following trends is not my cup of tea, and being too social drains me. So, what percentage of each writer are you? Find your sweet spot. You might look at my 80% soul, 20% social and say, hey, that's out of balance. It's not. That's because this is my sweet spot. The problem arises when I sway too much on the other side. Let me share another personal story. In August-September 2022, I took part in a 30 days, 30 essays online cohort course. We had to write and publish an essay every day for 30 days. We were trying to figure out the market, our niche, and how we could be of service to others. We also had to be socially interactive and network with other fellow writers. Every piece of writing I wrote during this time was for someone else. This meant I didn't write for myself. For a month, I was being a social writer, and that led to my burnout. I was so lost nurturing my social writer that I forgot to feed my soul writer. Though I was thriving as a social writer, my soul was unsatisfied. My soul was sad. It wasn't until I took a break from writing from others and spent a couple of hours writing my novel that I realized how sad my soul was. My soul missed this feeling of exhilaration it got from writing through freedom and imagination. I went too much on the social side and therefore lost my soul side. That's what we want to avoid. We don't want to lose one for the other. I might go from 80% soul, 20% social to 60-40 or even 50-50, and it will move given where I am in my writing journey. But during those 30 days, I was 2% soul and 98% social, and that was a grave mistake. At the core, I am a soul writer. If I don't take care of this side of me, I'll be of no service to my social side. If my soul writer doesn't get the space to express itself, the writer in me starts to suffocate and die. That is why it is important to know what percentage of each writer are you and stick to it. Find your sweet spot and don't sway away too much on either side. And please don't let society and media influence your decision. What works and applies to them, chances are, will not work for you. Figure out who you are as a writer, free from any judgment, responsibilities, and the shoulds, woulds, and coulds. Conclusion. That was one journey down the rabbit hole. Thank you for coming along with me. I said this in the introduction and it needs a repeating here as well. The concept of soul writer and social writer I shared here is not written in stone. Just like life, a writing journey is ever flowing and will have its ups and downs. There are many ways to make your way through this writing journey, and with this book I shared one such way. It worked for me and I hope it works for you as well. Take what agrees with you and give a shot to the points you don't agree with. Experiment and find out what works for you. It doesn't matter where on the scale you lean more, soul writer or social writer. Both are important and both are needed in this world. What is important for you is figuring out where you stand and make the most of your unique and gifted nature. If you want to just write for yourself and thrive fulfillingly as a soul writer, more power to you. If you want to just write for others and thrive successfully as a social writer, more power to you. But if you want a lifelong fulfilling and successful writing life, embrace your soul and your social sides. Go too much on either side and you lose the chance of enjoying and enriching writing life. Because at the end of the day, that's what we writers want, isn't it? Sending positive writing vibes your way, Rubina. The end. Thank you for listening to Soul Writer vs. Social Writer. Written and narrated by Rubina Gauri Gomes. You can find my free bi-monthly essays and free bi-monthly podcast for writers and more resources at rubinagomes.substack.com. Thank you again for listening.